Hey, all you cool cats and kittens, it's your favorite history teacher back at you again with another historical video. Today, we're talking about everyone's favorite war, World War One. Ha, got you. Yeah, we're talking about World War One. We're beginning the World War One unit. So, happy days. Let's get into it. All right, so today is a two title note day, of course. Make sure you put, this is chapter 11 in your textbooks. Skipping over chapter 10, moving on to chapter 11. And yeah, put this at the top of your margins in your notebooks. Chapter 11. All right, now this is what we're talking about today. The Great War begins. Okay. Because yeah, back then during that time, that's what it was called, the Great War. It wasn't called World War One because they had no futuristic capabilities to tell if there would be a second war. Anyways, Great War begins. That was your warm up. Okay, objectives. So you'll be able to locate the Triple Alliance and Triple Entente on the map of Europe. Explain how national competition fueled the tensions between European nations, and learn how the first war started. Learn how the war first started, and trace how different pre-war alliances kicked in when the war actually began. All right, so where are we at, though, in the world? Simple, the entire continent of Europe. All right, so the peace had not been working. With peace efforts that stem from, 1815 with the Congress of Vienna, Concert of Europe, von Metternich, okay, peace efforts in Europe were unsuccessful. Powerful forces were pushing Europe towards war. And it was spurred on by distrust of another. So Germany, Austria-Hungary, Italy, Britain, France, and Russia, those are the main powers, and they soon will form two different alliances. And these alliances intended to promote peace by creating powerful combinations that nobody dared to attack. So you could almost say the original Big Three. But of course, they had the opposite effect in the end. Hindsight 2020. Okay, the Triple Alliance. So test question. And the Triple Alliance has origins from our boy Bismarck. So Bismarck knew France would want revenge for their horrible loss in the Franco-Prussian War. So he will sign treaties with other powers. First created the Triple Alliance, Triple Alliance in 1882 with Italy and Austria-Hungary. Now, this is key because this test question is kind of like a multiple questions. I ask you who is in the Triple Alliance, who is in the other alliance, and then I ask you those two pre-war alliances, how do those differ from when the war actually begins? So when the war actually broke out, Germany, G and AH, Austria-Hungary, fought on the same side called the Central Powers. So we have the Triple Alliance leads to the Central Powers, okay? And there you go, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Italy. Then you have the other alliance, which I didn't want to spoil away, the Triple Entente. Not the Triple Entity, not the Triple Entente, okay, the Triple Entente. And the rival group took place in 1893 when France and Russia formed an alliance. In 1904, Britain and France signed an entente, which is where it comes from, which was a non-binding agreement to follow common policies. This led to close military and diplomatic ties, even though it wasn't a real formal treaty. And then Britain will sign an agreement later with Russia. So the Triple Entente, Britain, France, Russia. Triple Alliance, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Italy. And when war broke out, the Triple Entente turned into the Allied powers. So when war broke out, they fought along the Allied powers. So this is still a test question. This is a continuation of the test question. Now, Germany, now this is when the war begins. Germany will sign a treaty with the Ottoman Empire. So what side is the Ottoman Empire on during the war? If you said Central Powers, you're correct. And then Great Britain, GB, will sign one with Japan. So who's Japan on whose side? If you said Allied powers, correct. So yeah, Triple Entente leads to AP, Allied powers. So here you go. Here's the map. Germany, Austria-Hungary, you can't see Italy. And then the Triple Entente, Britain, France, Russia. All right. National competition. So you could argue, or how it's being taught these days, or ever, there are four main causes of World War I, and you could put those in order of the acronym MAIN. Four main causes, get it? So M-A-I-N, I'm writing it down for me. So there's the military. There are alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. Okay, so national competition, nationalism. So economic rivalries soured the international atmosphere. Britain felt threatened by the rise of Germany's economic and military growth. And Germany, as we've learned, did not receive the deserved respect they got in Africa. They are one of the industrial giants in Europe in the late 1800s, and they didn't get hardly anything in Africa. Come on, man. And Germany also feared that when Russia got their ish together, that their huge population and natural resources would make them unbeatable. So the paranoia is starting to seep in the German government. Overseas rivalries. In 1904 and 1911, France and Germany were on the brink of war in Morocco, which was a French colony. Diplomats are going to keep the peace, however, but Germany gained ground in Central Africa, as you saw on the map yesterday. And due to these two Moroccan crises, France and Great Britain were able to strengthen their alliances against Germany. Now, remember, the Entente is a non-binding agreement, so they just follow common policies. Well, their Entente, which states that they're not going to support one another if war actually breaks out, which is what an alliance actually does. But now France and Great Britain become BFFs, which you didn't see coming. All right, building up the military, Main, M. So international tensions rose due to the great powers building up their militaries. There was fierce competition on the buildup of navies between Great Britain and Germany. And to protect its overseas empire still, Great Britain, GB, had built the most respected navy in its day. So we all know that. And as Germany acquired new land, they too increased their naval power. And then you have sensational journalism, propaganda, will dramatize this arms race, and it stirred national public opinion against the rival countries. And that just builds up more nationalism. And that is why there's not just one root cause of World War I. It's a cause of many things. Nationalism, like I said. Aggressive nationalism caused increased tensions, and they were strong in Germany and France. Germans were proud of their new empire's military power and industrial leadership. France, as we know, were bitter about their defeat in the Franco-Prussian War, and they wanted their borderland of the Alsace-Lorraine back. And that's a very, I think it's coal-rich, enriched with coal. And it's on the border land in between France and Germany. And Germany took that from them. In Eastern Europe, Russia sponsored sponsored the form of nationalism called Pan-Slavism. And as the largest Slav country, they felt a duty to defend all Slavs. And so they are going to give support to Serbia later on, because Serbia is Slavic. Eastern Europe, majority of Eastern Europe are Slav speaking countries, Slavic. Okay, this is the Alsace-Lorraine. That's a big chunk of France missing that was given to Germany. The Russian Empire, as we know, is humongo bungo. They have what? We saw 9 time zones, right? All right, worrying too much. So these two old multinational empires feared nationalism. Of course, empires would fear that because, hello, look what happened to Napoleon's empire. So Austria-Hungary, which is a country, Austria and Hungary, they felt threatened that nationalism would spur a rebellion against among minority populations in the empire. And Ottoman Turkey felt threatened by new nations like Serbia. And if Serbia were able to ever achieve something called the South Slav state, they could take territory away from Austria-Hungary and Turkey. Again, they're all speculating this, and that's why I put worrying too much. In 1912, several Balkan states attacked Turkey to take land away from Turkish control. The following year, in 1913, these Balkan nations are going to fight each other for each of those spoils. Now, I think there are like three different countries are going to be fighting against each other. So those 3 countries fight to take land away from Turkey in 1912. In 1913, they fight each other. So this is going to raise tensions even higher. And so Eastern Europe, the Balkan region of Eastern Europe, are nicknamed the powder keg. And no, not that kind of keg. This keg is kind of like filled with gunpowder. And if you have a big old keg filled with gunpowder, the lightest spark, the tiniest spark, and you fire it up, will explode and cause chaos in Eastern Europe. So, this is Austria-Hungary and Turkey. Do you smell it? That smell. A kind of smelly smell. That smelly smell that smells smelly. Mr. Krabs. All right. Pre-Balkan War, 1912. This is what it looked like. Bosnia, Serbia, Bulgaria, Albania. They're all part of the Ottoman Empire. And this is after the Second War, the Second Balkan War. And so Serbia, Bosnia, Bulgaria, Albania, Montenegro, they're all going to fight. Put the key in ignition. Hop in fresh out the kitchen. Regional conflict. There was a new regional conflict between Serbia and the big bad Austro-Hungarian Empire. See big Austria-Hungary, little tiny Serbia. And this was actually predicted by Bismarck. He said there would be a little country fighting against a big country that would cause a world conflict. The crisis began when Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary, second in line, announced that he would visit Sarajevo of Bosnia. So Bosnia right here. Franz Ferdinand, again, was heir to the throne, nephew of Austrian Emperor Francis Joseph. And at the time, Bosnia was under the control of Austria-Hungary, which angered many Slavs and Serbs. The visit angered Serbian nationalists so much that they saw themselves as Austria-Hungary as foreign oppressors. And we all know about foreign oppressors with nationalism. Get them out. Kick them out. And you have this group called Unity or Die, which is the terror. Unity or death. Die. Unity or death. It was a terrorist group, and they vowed to take action. What kind of action? You ask me. Hopping fresh out the kitchen. See what I did there? Franz Ferdinand ignored warning signs of anti-Austrian unrest in Sarajevo. This is the capital of Bosnia. On June 28, 1914, he and his wife Sophie were riding through the capital in an open car. As the car drove onward, a conspirator named Gavrilo Princip took his chance and fired twice upon the car. Moments later, the Archduke and Archduchess were dead. So this event, test question, ignites a lot of things. First, it puts all the alliances, ententes, alliances, whatever you want to call them, into action. And this is your test question. So again, Sarajevo under Austro-Hungarian Empire-ish. That's our guy, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and they're typical of the hat and the mustache. Gavrilo Princip, this is obviously this isn't historical representation. It is not actual, right? That's him, but this isn't. I think that's from a movie clip. All right, the Empire strikes back. So Joseph was shocked, however, Francis Joseph, but he was reluctant to go to war. The Austro-Hungarian government saw it as an excuse to crush Russia. Kaiser William II, Kaiser Wilhelm, whichever one, was horrified, and he wrote to take a firm stand against Serbia. And basically, the Kaiser gave Austria-Hungary a blank check. Whenever you give a blank check, you can put however much money you want on it, and they will pay. So Austria-Hungary sent an ultimatum. Serbia must end all Austro-Hungarian agitation and punish any Serb that was found in the assassination plot, and Serbia should let Austria-Hungary join the investigation. Now, notice this happened in Bosnia, and they're talking about Serbia. So Serbia, if you don't know what an ultimatum is, it is do this or else. Do your homework or else. Take out the trash or you lose privileges to your PS4, Xbox, whatever gaming console. You get what I'm saying. All right, that's the ultimate. Let us in or we will go to war. So Serbia agreed to most, but not all of the ultimatum, and that is what an ultimatum is. You have to agree to everything or else. 1 month later, July 28th, 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Now, that is not where that test question stops, okay? Because it continues on. That's Francis Joseph. Look at that beard. Beard, mustache. It's a fluffy mustache. Rance and France, Russia and France come to Serbia's defense. After Austria-Hungary declared war, Serbia turned to Russia, the so-called champions of the Slavs. Remember, they pledged support to Serbia being newly independent and all. So Tsar Nicholas telegraphed Kaiser Wilhelm. Remember, they're related by blood, right? I think they're cousins, or they're related through Kaiser William's cousin who married, or sister who married the Tsar. It's you guys remember that day I showed you that family tree of European leaders. Anywho, saying, "Hey, Austria, Kaiser, hey, Kaiser, come on, bro, like tell Austria less than the demands, right?" Of course, that's going to fail. So Russia sees no other point. It's an alliance. You're not true to your word. You're not a man if you're not true to your word. So Russia responded by mobilizing its army August 1st, 1914. And because of Russia's mobilization, Germany declares war on Russia. Now, Russia sees that declaration and say, hey, I can't take on Germany by myself. France, come and help a brother out. So France sees this as an opportunity, of course, to redeem themselves because they've just been chomping at the bit to kill some Germans, to kill some Prussians. So they want redemption for their loss during the Franco-Prussian War. And they promised this, the same help was promised as Germany gave Austria-Hungary. So France has given Russia a blank check as well. Germany is going to tell the German government. When I say Germany told France, okay, these are governments, not saying the countries act as their own. The German government told the French government to stay out of the conflict. No, you don't want the smoke. France refuses. I don't know why I say French. France refuses, and because of this, Germany declares war on Russia. But that's not all. War begins. That's not all. Is that? Okay. So, war begins. By August 1914, battle lines started hardening. Italy and Britain remained uncommitted, and they wanted to remain neutral. Britain had to decide whether or not to support their ally France. Decisions will be made later. So Germany's military policy was developed by a guy named General Alfred von Schlieffen, whichever way you want to be Schlieffen. And so as we've seen on maps of Europe, Germany's location presented the possibility of a two-front war, which is not good to have. Okay. You have France to the west of Germany. You have Russia to the east of Germany. So the Schlieffen Plan was designed to avoid this problem. In theory, they argued to move against France first because Russia would take too long to mobilize because, hey, they're a country of I don't know how many million. That's a lot of people. They're going to take a while to build up their military. So they would defeat France first and then skirt all the way to Russia. All right, that's Alfred von Schlieffen. Look at all those general stars. This is the Schlieffen Plan. They would attack from here to the west, swoop in, take over Paris, and then get out. So, invade. According to the Schlieffen Plan, it required German armies to go through neutral Belgium to France. Hello, neutral Belgium to France. All right. And that is key because this, and their goal was, of course, to encircle and crush the French army. Organization of the invasion of Belgium started on August 3rd, 2 days later. And Belgium had a treaty with Britain and other European powers guaranteeing that Belgium would remain neutral. Like, hey, like if anything happens, you got to make sure we stay neutral. We don't want any part of this. We want no smoke. And after the invasion, Britain said, well, what kind of country am I if I don't protect my friends? So Germany invades Belgium, and that causes Britain to join the war and declare war on Germany August 4th. So that little piece of Germany invading Belgium and Britain declaring war on Germany. Yeah, that is the end of that test question. So countries react. So before the war, Britain had labor unrest and the issue of home rule in Ireland. Russia had to deal with problems from the revolution of 1905, which we discussed last chapter. The war brought temporary relief from internal problems. There's a renewed sense of patriotism, which is going to unite countries. Governments said that they were fighting for justice. Young men rushed to enlist, cheered on by women and elders, and they thought they were ready for an adventure. Yeah, let's fight for our country. Because this was dubbed the war to end all wars, the Great War, the greatest war of them all, to end all wars. Boy, were they wrong. So, yeah, that concludes today's lecture. It was a little bit lengthier, but hopefully you understand the beginnings of World War I, and you have a better grasp of how World War I started. Think Maine. And yeah, if you did like that, please smash that like button. Your homework is to do page 357, 3 through 6, not 3 through 5, 3 through 6. We're stepping it up, okay? So, yeah, as always, stay safe, wash your hands,